this session on the TESOL website. So I will share the link after the session is over. So again, I welcome all of you to this webinar today with Dr. Beckett, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Gulbahar.
Thank you, Laura.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for all who are joining us for this webinar. I was told to, well, as Laura said, I'm a professor at Iowa State University currently, and also the director of the intensive English program here. I was told to tell you all about myself, my career path, and propose some ideas for TESOL teacher education, focusing on post-secondary education, and discuss the proposed ideas. So let me see how much of this I can do in 20 minutes. I try to talk not too fast, but let me see. So I have been working for a long time. I taught as a teacher and lecturer in various intensive English programs. I've been director of intensive English program, ESL Center. I was teacher, educator, and professor at University of Cincinnati for 13 years before I came to Iowa State University. I'm also a researcher of applied linguistics and TESOL, and author, reviewer, editor, etc. I worked in China, I worked in Canada, and USA. And more about me, this I assume telling you about me is so that you know where I come from, I guess, in terms of, in case you see any biases, since we all bring in some biases to what we do. In any case, continuing about me, what I've done and what I bring to this webinar. My research interest has to do with content-based language teaching and learning and assessment. And also project-based second language learning teaching, etc. So some of the things that I propose may definitely have something to do with my interest. So here we go. So I think TESOL teacher education should train teachers to engage in content-based language teaching and assessment. I did some survey of 35 MA and MEd TESOL program in US for this webinar. And I found out that there are only 2 programs explicitly mention content-based approaches to teaching English as a second foreign language, namely University of Cincinnati and University of Utah. And none of the other programs that I surveyed specifically explicitly mentioned that that should be done. And I also think that teacher education programs should train teacher education candidates to be able to design and develop various special programs. For example, bridge programs, credited language programs, specialized summer programs for multiple purposes. And I think we should utilize technology in teaching and assessment, and therefore teacher education programs should train their candidates to be able to do this as well. I also propose that teacher education programs be the trainers of others, train students to be able to train their colleagues, and to train them to be able to get and implement grant projects, because money is very rare these days. And I think we should also teach our teacher education students to take up leadership roles and train them to engage in professional development through presentations as well as publications. And especially when it comes to being teachers in intensive English programs, a lot of us stop at presentation. While that is very good, we need to go beyond that and start publishing our work so more people can benefit from our brilliance. And I think that teacher education programs should also train language teachers from more diverse backgrounds and train leaders who can help infuse diversity in ESL teaching profession, particularly intensive English programs that do not have many people from diverse backgrounds. We should train teachers and leaders who can help integrate more world Englishes in the profession. I know that a few universities are doing this, but I think more of us should pay attention to that aspect of teacher training. So now let me see how much I can say about why should we do all the stuff that I just said. So here's my attempt to discuss the proposed ideas. And we need to do all that, what I proposed just now, because today's ESL students and their parents demand value-added language programs. That is, it's no longer enough that we teach listening, speaking, reading, writing, and TOEFL, because that kind of teaching is now very well done in students' home countries, let's say such as China, such as Japan. So what students and parents look for now in coming to North America, for example, or even Europe, is conditional admission to universities. They don't want to come here just to learn language. And they're looking for credit-bearing courses that can be transferred to universities. That is, while learning English, improving their English, they want something more. They want to be able to take courses so that they can transfer them later to their degree programs. Students and their parents are now increasingly asking for other things such as SAT courses. Again, not just English. They feel that coming to US just for English alone is too expensive and unnecessary. And of course, you all know that this has to do with not only just money, but we have promoted English language learning for a long time, and long enough that students who come to us now, those 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds now have learned English from anywhere from primary school, starting from primary school, all the way to finishing high school, etc. So by this time, they will have studied enough English to either already know enough English to study something else in English, or that they are just bored to death about just learning English, so they need something more. And I propose that we need to train people to engage in content-based language teaching and learning. And what I'm discovering from reading research and also from listening to my colleagues is that people actually do understand that they need to do content-based language teaching and learning. And they also understand that they need to integrate technology in teaching and learning, as I just proposed. But they also know that students utilize a lot of technology. And I think we also know that our students know much more about technology than we do. So what we need then is that our colleagues and the teachers that we are training need to be trained to do these things. That is, they need to be trained on how to do content-based language teaching. it sounds easy, but in reality, it's not that easy to do, because language teachers would say, well, I don't know the content. Maybe I can do social studies, but how do you want me to teach science, right? And then science-focused teachers would say, well, language is not my issue, it's your problem. When you guys are done with language training, send them to me. And then even those who can teach, let's say, English language and social studies, they feel now they don't know how to assess them. For instance, my colleagues here in intensive English program here, they say things like, well, I think the students seem to have gotten the message across, but there is still language problem. How do you want me to assess them? So these are all actually real issues. It's not that people don't want to do it, they just need help in figuring out how to do these. I think that we also need to teach people how to design, as I said, curriculum that integrates digital material. That too is something that people need to be trained on. We all work very hard, intensive English teachers work very hard, and usually people don't have time to do what they're supposed to do, and then also go learn how to learn technology, and then go figure out how to integrate that into their teaching. So I think we need to start the training by starting from teacher education program. And then beyond that, we should actually provide professional development workshops and also give people time to learn how to do these things. I mentioned earlier that I surveyed 35 TESOL programs across the nation. And out of those, only 5 programs mentioned computer-assisted or technology-integrated language learning. So others didn't. I assume that they addressed to some degree, but the fact that they did not mention it explicitly to me suggests that they are not doing enough, at least. So we need to do more. Last year at TESOL, my colleagues from several universities and myself presented on our research content analysis of 20 journals in our profession. And we found out that very few journals actually publish anything on technology. And when they do, it's all about corpus linguistics, it's about research, and there are even practitioner-oriented journals are not publishing enough about why we should use technology in teaching and how to do that. So I think that's something that we need to pay attention to do in teacher education programs. And if you are looking at the slides, you see that I cited a whole bunch of people who also call for technology integrated teaching learning. So I mentioned that people need to do content-based education, and then back to that, again, to reiterate, I don't know if the rest of you are in intensive English programs, but Lens is. So those of us who work in intensive English programs are feeling the need to supply or design or go pursue customized programs. People are not coming here again to learn stuff that we already have. And so as a result, we are pursuing grant opportunities and etc. So yeah, that is a lot of things to do for teacher training, but maybe we just need to refocus our training. And I also mentioned earlier that we need to go beyond presenting, and we should train our students to publish. And of course, doctoral students are trained to publish, and a lot of master's students are not, well, they are trained, but they are not strongly encouraged to do that, because I thought is that, well, if they want to do that, they'll go pursue doctorate, or that their major focus is teaching in the future. But that's true. But even in teaching, now it seems necessary that people actually publish. For example, I read a dissertation that was just finished this year on intensive English language programs. And then the findings of this dissertation included that intensive English program teachers and administrators feel very marginalized. And as a director of intensive English program, I go to this directors meeting every year, at least once. And one of the issues that we discussed at this year's directors meeting is that this is precisely this marginalization feeling and issue. So our profession conducted a survey to find out why other people ignore intensive English programs or teachers or this profession. And it was found that because we don't publish enough. That means that people don't know what we do. They don't read about what we can do. And therefore, they don't pay attention either way, good or bad. So sometimes it's a good thing, but other times it's not very good not to be paid attention to. So for that reason, publishing is very important. And students are very capable. Master's students, I've taught tons of them. They are very bright people, and if we encourage them, they can do things like publishing, and they can help the profession be recognized. So for that reason, I think we should do that. I mentioned that teacher education programs in TESOL need to pay more attention to diversity. And this is because, as you see, that I cited a whole bunch of people here, and publications that very recent publications. And it seems to me, not only from what I see, what I hear, but also from this research, and that we still need to work harder on diversity. And again, as I said earlier, there are very few intensive English teachers from diverse backgrounds. And it's a good thing to do that, because then students actually can see themselves represented among their teachers. It's not only it's just the right thing to do, but it's also a good thing to do to encourage students. And specifically what I mean is that people who are non-white, people who are from non-inner circle English-speaking nations should be considered for hiring. And okay, so how do we do all this? Of course, systematically engaging in teacher training, keeping all those issues that I just discussed in mind. And it's interesting that what I often, as somebody who pays attention to all of these things, sometimes I get bored myself, thinking that, oh my God, I've been talking about this like for 20 years. Maybe we don't need to anymore, right? The minute I think that, well, I'm bored, I don't think we need to talk about it, and I read something that says, oh wow, there's still a lot that needs to be done. As recent as this year at TESOL, Ryoko Kobuta, for instance, gave a talk on social justice, race, power, etc. issues that called our attention to continued need to pay attention to what I just mentioned. For example, the argument against hiring non-native speakers, if you will, is often that students prefer native speakers, which a lot of us found actually to be myth. It's not really true. my own research shows that recently Ali Fawood published an article that discusses that issue. And then at International TEFL, there was somebody who also gave a keynote discussing this extensively. So actually, Sylvia, according to her, clients may not know why they're discriminating. So we need consciousness raising. So I think we also should engage in ideological, theoretical, practical discussions, because some of these issues are not just practical matter. It's not as simple as, well, we don't have resources, that we don't have a professor who knows how to teach integrating technology, or that we don't have a colleague who can train the trainers on how to use digital technology, or that we don't know anybody who can train us on integrating diversity. These things are not as simple as we don't have resources. It's often ideological, it's theoretical, and if we understand that we can always find resources to do this. So so that is basically, without repeating myself, that's basically what I have to say. Now I'm ready for questions. So Laura, are you there to moderate questions? Or?
I'm going to turn my video back on so people can see
that
I'm alive here. So, well, you touched on so many different things. I think it would be interesting to start with the IEP perspective, because I think that's where some people were coming from in the call. So if you can see on the, if you hover over your screen, on the bottom left, there's a button to mute or unmute. And you can unmute yourself if you'd like to make a comment, or did anything resonate with you? If you'd like to ask a question. So I'm going to open it up now. Lance, type something in. Would you like to tell us what you'd like to hear more about, Lance?
Sure. So we have been having students ask us, we bought, our program bought tablets for all the students. They don't receive them, we keep them here, but we have enough tablets for three full classes, 20 students each class. So our teachers have been encouraged to use the tablets, and you said that you had suggested making digital materials. Do you suggest making those in-house digital materials or using publishers' digital materials?
Well, I think we can do both. Well, one of the reasons for suggesting that we train people to develop digital materials is that, other than catching up with students and utilizing available resources, that I think Lance knows this, that I'm not very happy that the paper textbooks are very, very, very expensive. And I understand that part of that is just supposed to be supporting our professional colleagues who write textbooks, but it's very, very expensive. So I think that we can utilize a lot of free resources if we have something like tablet. And to your question, so do we also create our own? I think if people know how to, for instance, there are programs like mine here that we have teachers in our intensive English program who know how to create digital resources. And we are also affiliated with Applied Linguistics and Technology program, where almost all graduate students know how to create iBook, for example. So I think we can, if we have that kind of resources available, we should do that. And if not, I found out that I attended a presentation by Ohio State University Intensive English Program that went completely digital. They don't have, they don't use any paper sources anymore, and they utilized existing resources, web sources, etc. So I think depending on what's available to us, we can do both, I think.
Would that be considered publishing to academics?
If it's original work by the teacher or the teachers or the program.
Yeah, so the program would get together and create our own materials, because that's kind of where we're leading towards. We're very focused on using the book here and using the book's assessments. And trying to push the instructors to create their own tests and materials. So.
Yes, it's definitely publication. It's of course it's a kind of publication, but everybody else, people need to know that you published that,
right.
So the rest of us can make use of it, and we help disseminate your work for you, so that people know that you do publish, and your publication is useful for other people. So absolutely, yeah, it's professional publication, yes.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Since we're a small group today, please feel free to put out a thought or a question. Anyone?
Yeah, I may have overwhelmed people saying that so many things should be done by teacher education. Yes, that is a lot of work. It's just that traditionally, Laura and I have been teacher educators for a long time. Not all teacher education programs do some of the things that I said. And what I'm saying is that perhaps we need to refocus or that integrate some of these things that are absolutely necessary now. Like money is difficult to come by. We have fewer and fewer students coming, and we are going after people who might need special programs, and students are bored with paper stuff we used to do. So it's just adjusting to the need is what I'm trying to say. And if teacher education programs don't do it, then we continue to produce people who cannot catch up with reality. And that's not good for either the program or the people who work in the program. So. And actually our young people, the people who come into our teacher education programs now know a lot of these things. We just need to systematically perhaps harness what they bring and let them know that is help them connect what they know already with the professional theory, etc. And the leadership is another thing, and we produce a lot of master's students, and I found that even including a lot of my own students, for some reason they find their way to intensive English programs, and several became directors. And when I was teaching them, I didn't actually train them how to be directors because I was hoping that they'd become professors. So that's another angle that I found out that, well, if that's what attracts them, then we should also train them that might be a possibility. And so far I know that University of Arizona has intensive English program, administration program course. And I found out that TESOL does a certificate.
Yeah.
But I think more of teacher education program could include that leadership, a course or two on leadership. Just to help our students to expand their repertoire, to provide them opportunity.
Dr. Beckett.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a question. We're talking about, we are obviously working in an intensive English program at USI. And when we first started, we had good numbers. And so one of the things we did were ESP, English for Specific Purposes. So we had students in classes for engineering, classes for nursing, and then our numbers dropped. And the other thing is kind of like what you mentioned. Well, I don't want to teach engineering. I don't know anything about engineering. So it was really like that content versus skills. But when you have students at the lower level, for example, like I mean, it's a bit difficult to talk about content when they don't know the basic skills. And so we struggled, and of course we struggle with the numbers going down. So what do you think about that? Like, is it really relevant to teach them content and they don't really know anything else?
There are at least two views on that I've been discovering. One view is that you can teach content at any level and any English language or any language proficiency level. And those people would say something like, well, just imagine you teach your children how to do arithmetic, or teach them about birds, for instance, teach them about plants, teach them about family relationship when they barely can speak any of their own home language even. They say that think of it like that, and you don't wait until your children be able to speak perfect Spanish or perfect English and then say, okay, now let me teach you what mommy means, what daddy means in relation to the family. So the point is that they think that just like children in learning in their first languages, learning other things in their first languages while the language is still being developed, second and foreign language people should be able to do the same, is one view. And then you may ask, as you actually already did, how do we do this when people speak very little? And then the people who argue for the possibilities that they'd say, well, then you allow some first language integration. You allow people to use visual tools to show you if they understood. You as a teacher use visuals to help them understand and do more hands-on work rather than bombarding low English level students with theory, for example.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's what they argue. And another camp I found is that just simply say that's impossible. So you wait until people have some proficiency level and then start content. Well, actually, no, yeah. Actually, there's a third view. A third view is that while you can do content and language teaching, especially when you have people who say, I don't know engineering. A third view is that, well, yes, you can. It's still possible. And then what they propose is that you hire somebody from engineering, for example, a master's student, a graduate student. And then you pair that student who help you teach the content with your intensive English teacher. And then together you teach the content and help the people develop their English language learning. And of course, as a director myself, I would say, wait a minute, then that means I have to pay for two people, right? And yes, that truly is the immediate concern. But if if more of us agree that this is something that must be done, or maybe sometime we just have to do it because students otherwise don't come to us, then the profession may start seeing things differently and start understanding the eventual benefit of doing so. Yeah. So in any case, that's another way to do it.
Well, what we did, because our numbers dropped and it was not possible to create a specific like English for specific purposes for engineering, for Hangul, for nursing, for business. So we may have like 5 students in a class in a level. And so we started incorporating TED Talks, and each student would choose topics from their specific, area of interest or whatever they want to major in once they're done with intensive English. But, and then they would do a presentation or something to do in that field. So that's how we learned to, I guess, cope with lack of knowledge, but we give them like that a little taste of that, of their major or whatnot, or write an essay in their writing skills about a specific field. And Lisa is actually our writing teacher.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. That actually is related to the first group of the first line of thought that some people argue that yes, you can do it, and specifically the proposal those people would make is that, well, you teach people the skills that they need to go explore their own fields. Like you teach them how to think, you teach them how to learn, you teach them how to manipulate existing resources, etc., and then have them work on their own contents. Actually, I've done something similar when I taught in a very intensive English program in Canada. I did actually do content-based teaching of English to 100 Japanese students, and it was it was amazing. It's like because they came from various backgrounds, like specialization areas from Japan, that included something like law, engineering, business, etc., etc. So I thought, okay, how do I teach content to this many students? So my approach was project-based learning, and what I said to them is that I'll teach you how to research. I'll teach you how to present research in writing and and orally, and I will teach you how to search. I'll give you a framework on how these things should work, and then I allow them to go research whatever they are interested in their fields. So students did research on indigenous peoples of Canada. They did research on capital punishment in U.S. And they studied something like bank system, and then some did the projects on cosmetics and chemical harm to people's skin, yada yada. So it was amazing. But what was common is that the project-based approach, that the common principle, the common theories, common knowledge that everybody needed to go do their own research was sufficient enough for those students to have produced just amazing work in their own fields. So yes, what you're doing is absolutely the great way to do this. So it still is possible, yes.
And that's what we were really excited to hear you talk more about that project-based learning, how we may be able to incorporate that as part, especially maybe for the higher levels.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to reach out to students from many specializations. Yes, you're right. Again, as a director, the first thing, Lance knows this, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my God, how much is that going to cost? So one IEP teacher and then 5 teaching assistants from engineering, business, agriculture, veterinarian. Oh my God, that's a lot of money for my program, is what I actually say. And what I'm trying to say is that truly is reality. But then there's also a way that can be possible with manageable resources.
Emmy, does USI have a TESOL program?
Yep, we do. We have a second language acquisition policy and culture program. Started last fall with offering one course, and then they're embedding a TESOL certificate, intensive TESOL, like TESOL practical session, I guess. I don't know how to call it. I guess TESOL practicum and TESOL certificate, and it's a one month intensive during the summer. It's worth 6 credits, and that's embedded as part of the program. And ideally, students would finish in 1 year. And then we will include language learning technology language learning. Okay. I don't know the exact.
I mean, one of the things that I think I'd love, as we're running out of toward the end, but Gulbahar, I would love to hear you share, because you sit in a very unique position as a director of an IEP and as a TESOL faculty. In my experience, and I'm not an expert at all, this is just my impression, so I'd love to know what you know about data-wise, my impression has been IEPs are often very separate from TESOL programs at institutions, and that the folks who wind up directing and staffing teaching in IEPs, although they have TESOL degrees, they're sort of seen as second-class faculty to a faculty member who's in a TESOL, master's TESOL program. I know you talked about the difference in sort of publication demands, tenure demands, a different kind of work. And I mean, I'm just speaking for Hunter. We have a big IEP. They have wanted to run a certificate program, and our graduate school has divorced themselves from them. Their certificate program could have been a pipeline to us for people to continue on for a master's, but because the relationship isn't there, that like died on the vine. And now they don't even have a certificate program. I don't even know what goes on. And they're literally across down the hall. They're across the street, Lexington Avenue. But so I'm just wondering, are you unique in bridging those roles? And what message would you like to share for IEP directors from your position in TESOL? And what would you like to share, the other way?
What you said is absolutely true. I think there are still a lot of IEPs separate for various reasons. And some reasons include traditionally they were just separate. And then other reasons I hear include that sometimes they make a lot of money and they don't want to share it with other departments. And but I think Iowa State University made a great decision in that they decided to hire somebody like me, who is a professor and who also had interest and experience in directing an intensive English program. By doing so, that's one reason that my intensive English program is much more integrated than other intensive English programs.
Okay.
One reason is that because I like to believe, and I know that that's how they made their decision, my department. That is, they did want intensive English program not to be separate. They wanted us to be integrated. So having me as a professor and a director doing both, that was one reason that I think we are more integrated, like increasingly more integrated. And another reason, again, Lance knows this, is that due to enrollment decrease, I needed to find a way to keep my people as in people in my intensive English program, and also be able to find them enough work to make their stay worthwhile. So one of the things that I did by going to my college and department is to say that can intensive English program lecturers teach in English department, because our English department here teaches students from all over the campus. So there are a lot of students that English department teaches. Mm-hmm. So while they don't have enough lecturers, we actually don't have enough students. So we agreed that that intensive English program lecturers, when they have time, they teach in English department. As a result, we are even further integrated. And our intensive English program lecturers are seen as English department lecturers, not just intensive English program lecturers. So I'm really happy with how things work here. And as a result, I don't think our lecturers feel that marginalized or that they are not, they are thought of less. Because a lot of them, almost all of them teach in English department. So they're just like any other lecturer in the department. And if anything, I hope, I should remember to reiterate this, is that I hope that they feel more valuable than just any lecturer, because not only that they can teach in English department, they can also teach students from other countries. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Iowa State University did a great job of making that decision that they hire a professor to direct the IEP.
I agree.
This way, I actually take care of both sides of the, and I don't want to be just one or the other, and I care deeply about both sides. And
Yes.
my lecturers are very capable people, and I hope they don't feel marginalized. I know that in reality, they're very integrated. So the point is that I think some other programs perhaps could learn this. And at NAPSA, a few directors, we were discussing what's happening to our field, like intensive English programs due to the enrollment decrease. So everybody shared what they're doing, all the way from having to let people go and blah, blah. So when it came to me, I said, well, I'm happy to say I didn't have to. And here's how it's working. Everybody is like, oh my God, some of them didn't think of that.
That's
so
right.
what I'm trying to say is that maybe more intensive English programs should work more closely with their home college. And my suggestion for home colleges would be that try to utilize the expertise of intensive English program teachers. Integrate them. They have a lot to offer. And speaking of lot to offer, my intensive English program lecturers get very, very good student evaluation when they teach American students in English department. So having taught in ESL programs, they gain this experience that is good for any kind of teaching. So I would say that other colleges really should utilize the expertise and be happy to integrate intensive English program teachers.
That's really brilliant.
And-
Go ahead, Lance.
So I was just going to add, we here at Troy University, we have a lot of overseas partnerships with other schools, sister schools. And one of our teachers here, one of our IEP teachers, just went to China for 8 weeks to teach at one of those universities. It's a really great recruiting tool that we're using to bring in students. Because we send one of our teachers there, the students get familiar with that teacher, and then that teacher then brings in those students. He's been there, I think he's been there for about 2 weeks, and we already have 2 students who've applied to our school from the program that he's teaching in.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I imagine that's, yeah.
So that is something that some schools, if your numbers are low, you can keep someone on the payroll by sending them to another school for a short term if you have those types of partnerships. And that then brings in new people because they know they have a connection with not only the school, but with a person who teaches at that school.
Yes, great idea, yeah.
Good recruiting tool for us. And like I said, he's only been there for 2 weeks and he'll be there for 8. And we do have a partnership with that school. It's in China and we have a couple partnerships there. And there's talk about if someone else wants to go when he gets back to go there as well. And so we don't have a lot of full-time faculty. We have 6 full-time and 10 adjuncts. But we're thinking about sending some adjuncts as hiring them like they would be a full-time and then sending them over as well.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Interesting. We're almost out of time. Is there any other question that or comment you'd like to make before we close? I'm looking in the chat box. I'll give you a moment. Anything else? This is really interesting.
Thank you.
I really appreciate everyone who, Lance and Emmy and Dr. Beckett for what you shared, and it's making me think about what I can do here. And I'm thinking on the TESOL side, we always, we have students that we need to place, obviously, for field work, and that can add as a no-cost kind of benefit over to the IEPs. And without those relationships, we send our candidates in adult track to other settings other than our own IEP at times. So these relationships, we really shouldn't consider ourselves in competition with each other. We should support each other because it really will benefit all of us and our learners. So I'm going to say thank you. I hope I'll see some of you in March in Seattle. Am I going to see you there, Dr. Beckett?
Yeah, I'll see you there. Yeah.
Awesome. Seattle, where you
Thank
don't.
you.
Yes, we're all there.
Take
Okay.
care. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.